Have you ever felt like your motivation just disappeared? Like you once had the spark to learn English, to speak, to listen, to connect, but now it feels pointless? In this story set in Denmark, you'll rediscover how something as simple as a forgotten touch, a shared word, or a quiet morning can bring your passion back. This isn't just about learning English. It's about remembering what made you start, and maybe who you were before you forgot. It was early morning in Copenhagen. The sky was pale blue and the streets were still. You could almost hear the city breathing, slow, calm, and quiet. Inside a small apartment overlooking the canal, Anna sat by the window, her hands wrapped around a warm cup of coffee. The smell of roasted beans filled the room, yet somehow it felt empty. You know that feeling, right? When everything looks perfect on the outside. Calm, cozy, stable, but inside something feels missing. Like you've lost the rhythm that once made your days feel alive. Anna had been feeling that for months. Not just with life, but with her English practice too. The voice in her head used to say, "You can do this." Now it only whispered, "What's the point?" Eric, her husband, had left early for work as always. He was kind, quiet, the type of person who spoke more through actions than words. But lately, even his actions felt like routines, not connection. And in that stillness, Anna realized something strange. She couldn't remember the last time they really talked. Not just small talk, but those deep, messy, funny conversations they once had. Often in broken English, laughing at their mistakes outside. The sound of a bicycle bell echoed down the street. A Danish couple passed by, laughing softly, their scarves fluttering in the wind. Anna watched them and thought, maybe they still have that connection I lost. She didn't know if she was thinking about love or language. Her phone buzzed with a notification. English listening practice, 10 minutes daily. She sighed. The app's cheerful tone felt cruelly ironic. She hadn't practiced in weeks. Learning English had started as something joyful. A bridge to new places, new people, new feelings. But somewhere along the way it became another checkbox, another thing to fail at. She looked at the mirror on the opposite wall. "What happened to me?" she whispered. The reflection didn't answer, just stared back, tired but still curious. Maybe that's why she didn't delete the app. Maybe that's why, deep down, she still wanted to try. Outside, the first sunlight touched the water, and the city began to wake up. Anna closed her eyes for a moment. She didn't know it yet, but today something small, something forgotten would return. Not as a big moment, not as magic, but as a quiet reminder that some things never really disappear. They just wait for us to notice them again. The forgotten routine. Later that morning, Anna stood in the kitchen, staring at the small round table by the window. It used to be their little ritual, 2 mugs of coffee, one with too much sugar for Eric, one black for her. They would sit there, sometimes in silence, sometimes speaking in simple English sentences just to practice. "You are my morning sunshine," Eric would tease. "No, you are," she'd reply, pretending to correct him. They'd laugh, not because the English was perfect, but because it was theirs. But now the mugs sat unused. Dust had settled in the corners. The English books were stacked neatly on the shelf, untouched, like souvenirs from a past life. Anna realized she hadn't spoken a full English sentence in weeks. It wasn't just about language. It was about something deeper, the small habits that connect two people, the invisible threads that tie one day to the next. You see, we all have these tiny routines, morning walks, shared jokes, inside phrases, that seem meaningless until they disappear. Then suddenly the silence feels too loud. Anna began to think about when it started to fade. Maybe it was after that long winter when they both got too busy. Or maybe it was when life got comfortable enough to stop trying. She picked up one of the English books, Everyday Conversations. The cover was bent. The pages smelled faintly of coffee and thyme. She flipped it open and found a note Eric had once written. "Let's never stop learning together." A quiet ache rose in her chest. She smiled sadly. That note wasn't just about English. It was about them. Anna took a deep breath and whispered out loud, "Good morning." Her voice sounded strange, rusty, like an instrument out of tune. She tried again, slower this time. "Good morning." She smiled even though it felt awkward. The sound of her own English voice reminded her of something, a version of herself that was curious, brave, and willing to make mistakes. She reached for her phone again, opened the app, and hit play. A gentle voice spoke in English. "Repeat after me. Today is a new beginning." Anna hesitated, then repeated it. "Today is a new beginning." The words echoed softly through the kitchen. For the first time in a long while, it didn't sound like a lesson. It sounded like a promise, and just like that, the forgotten routine began to stir again, quietly, like a heartbeat returning after a long sleep. Coffee and silence. The next morning, Anna woke up earlier than usual. The city outside was still wrapped in fog, soft and silver. She walked to the kitchen and, without thinking too much, prepared 2 cups of coffee. One black, one with sugar. Just like before. She placed them on the table and waited, listening to the faint sound of seagulls outside. For a moment, the apartment didn't feel empty anymore. It felt like it was holding its breath, waiting for something small but meaningful to happen. Eric entered the kitchen, rubbing his eyes. "You're up early," he said in Danish, half asleep. Anna smiled. "Coffee," she replied in English. The word felt round and warm in her mouth, like the first note of a song she hadn't sung in years. Eric looked at her, surprised. Then he smiled, a real one this time, the kind that reaches the eyes. "Thank you," he answered, also in English. It was clumsy but kind. The air between them shifted, a little lighter, a little less tired. They sat together in silence, sipping coffee. The kind of silence that doesn't hurt but heals. The kind that says we don't need to fill every space with words. Yet, somewhere between the clinking of cups and the quiet hum of the city, Anna realized something. Language isn't only made of words. It's made of rhythm, of shared pauses, of looking at someone and knowing they understand you even when you say nothing. That's the strange beauty of learning a language, or love. It's not about getting every word right. It's about trying, failing, laughing, and trying again. Anna remembered how she used to get frustrated when she mispronounced English words. Eric would laugh, but not to mock her. He'd laugh because he loved how she never gave up. That laughter had disappeared for a while. But today maybe it was finding its way back. Eric took another sip and said softly, "It's still good. English." Anna laughed. "You too." It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Their voices stumbled, but their connection didn't. The coffee steamed between them, carrying something warm like forgiveness or maybe rediscovery. She thought, maybe this is what starting again feels like, awkward, simple, human. And in that moment, she realized that silence isn't the enemy. Sometimes it's just the space love uses to return slowly, like coffee cooling on a quiet Danish morning. The touch that spoke. That afternoon, the wind outside turned sharp. Autumn in Copenhagen has a way of reminding you that beauty can also be cold. Anna stood by the window, watching the leaves swirl along the cobblestone street. Eric was fixing a drawer in the corner, his usual quiet task after work. For weeks, their lives had been a series of small silences. But today something was different. The air between them didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt like it was waiting. When the drawer jammed, Eric frowned. "It won't close," he muttered. Anna walked over, kneeling beside him. Their hands met. Accidentally at first, then deliberately. It was such a small thing, that touch. Warm skin against warm skin. But it felt electric, alive, like language without words. For a split second, she wasn't thinking about grammar or routine or loss. Just this, his hands remembered. You see, touch has its own memory. Science says that our skin keeps emotional traces of connection. The warmth of a hug, the comfort of a hand, the security of a familiar touch. Our bodies remember what our minds forget. Anna didn't read that in a psychology book. She felt it. Eric looked up. Their eyes met and suddenly time slowed down. She noticed the faint lines at the corners of his eyes, the way he still smelled faintly of coffee and sawdust. "You okay?" he asked softly. His voice was careful, but there was something honest behind it, a question that meant more than it said. Anna nodded. "Yes. I just forgot how this feels." They both laughed quietly, awkwardly, but it was the kind of laughter that cracks open something deeper. "I miss this," she said. He tilted his head. This us." The words hung in the air like a fragile bridge, and just like that, their silence turned into understanding. That single moment of touch said everything their words hadn't for months. It said, "I'm still here. We're still us." Later that evening, Anna sat back at the table with her notebook. She wrote, "When his hands remembered, my heart did too." She whispered it in English, slowly savoring each word. For the first time in a long time, her English didn't sound like a task. It sounded like truth. Sometimes the most fluent language is the one spoken without words at all. Words we stop saying. That night after dinner, the house was filled with the soft hum of rain tapping against the windows. The city lights shimmered on the wet pavement outside. Anna sat on the couch, her English notebook open beside her. She hadn't written in it for months. The pages were still full of her old notes, grammar rules, vocabulary lists, half-finished sentences. But what caught her attention was something simpler. A list of phrases she and Eric used to practice together. "How was your day?" "I'm proud of you. Don't give up." She ran her fingers over the words. They looked like nothing special, just ordinary English. But she remembered how powerful they used to feel. Like tiny gifts they gave each other every day. Eric would come home tired, and she'd say in her best English accent, "You did great today." He'd smile, pretending not to understand, and answer, "Say again?" just to hear her repeat it. But over time, those words faded. They stopped saying the simple things. Maybe because life got too busy. Maybe because silence felt easier than honesty. Or maybe, as people often do, they assumed the other person already knew how they felt. You see, in both love and language, repetition is everything. The more you practice, the stronger the connection. The same goes for kindness, gratitude, affection. They don't grow without use. And when you stop saying the words that matter, even love begins to lose its fluency. Eric came into the living room and sat beside her. "What are you reading?" he asked. "Just old phrases," she said softly. He leaned closer, looking at the notebook. "I remember this," he smiled. "You used to say, 'I'm proud of you,' every time I fixed something." Anna laughed. "You liked it too much." He shrugged. "Maybe." "Say it again." She looked at him, half embarrassed, half amused. "I'm proud of you." And just like that, the words returned, simple, imperfect, real. They both laughed. It wasn't about pronunciation anymore. It was about connection. Anna realized something beautiful. Language is not only for communication, it's for remembering who we are together. The words we stop saying often carry the feelings we stop showing. But once you speak them again, they bring the warmth back, like rain waking up a sleeping garden. That night, before sleeping, Anna whispered one last line to herself. Maybe love, like English, is something we keep learning forever. Rediscovering connection. The next weekend, the sun returned, shy but golden, glimmering across the canals of Copenhagen. Anna and Eric decided to take a walk through Nyhavn, the colorful harbor where musicians played slow jazz and tourists snapped endless photos. They hadn't done this in years. The smell of fresh pastries, sea salt, and roasted coffee wrapped around them like a memory. Everything looked the same, yet everything felt new as they walked. Anna noticed how Eric would glance at her, waiting for her to start a conversation. She hesitated, then smiled. "Let's speak English today," she said, half challenging, half joking. He raised an eyebrow. "All day?" "Yes." "Practice," she replied. He grinned. "Okay. You start." They both laughed, awkward at first. Their sentences were short, choppy, sometimes grammatically questionable. But they tried. "What do you see?" Eric asked. "I see." Anna paused, searching for words. "People happy. Colorful houses. Wind very strong." He laughed. "Yes. Danish wind, always strong." They both giggled like kids discovering a secret language, one built not on fluency, but on effort and joy, and something magical happened. The more they spoke, the easier it became. Their laughter filled the pauses between words. Even strangers smiled at their clumsy English. One older woman passing by said kindly, "Good practice." They both blushed, but it felt good, like being seen, not judged. You know, there's a strange freedom in speaking imperfectly. When you stop fearing mistakes, you start hearing the beauty behind your own voice again. Anna realized that the same rule applies to relationships. Connection doesn't depend on perfection. It grows from vulnerability, from the willingness to try again even when it feels uncomfortable. They stopped by the edge of the canal. The water sparkled under the sun. Eric looked at her and said, "I like this. Speaking with you." She smiled. "Me too." It wasn't a grand confession, but it didn't need to be. The way he said it, slow, genuine, slightly unsure, said everything as the day faded into a quiet afternoon. Anna realized that rediscovering connection wasn't about learning new things. It was about remembering what already lived inside them. Just like English words stored somewhere in her mind, love too had been waiting patiently for her to use it again, and in that simple, stumbling conversation under the Danish sun, she found her fluency, not in language but in connection. Small steps, big changes. A few weeks later, the rhythm of life began to change, quietly like the tide turning without anyone noticing. Anna didn't wake up one day fluent in English, and her relationship with Eric didn't suddenly become perfect. But something subtle had shifted. Every morning now began with a good morning in English, and every night ended with a soft sleep well. They had started speaking more, laughing more, and maybe most importantly, trying more. You see, progress never looks dramatic in real time. It looks like tiny steps that seem to go nowhere, until you look back and realize how far you've walked. Anna started adding small moments of practice into her days, listening to an English podcast while cooking, repeating short phrases while walking to the store, reading street signs out loud just to feel the sounds in her mouth again. She didn't force it. She simply lived it. Eric joined her sometimes, correcting her pronunciation, pretending to be her English teacher. They made mistakes together and turned them into inside jokes. One day, Anna mispronounced sheet in a way that made Eric choke on his coffee, laughing. "Language is dangerous," he said between giggles. She threw a napkin at him, laughing too hard to speak. And just like that, the fear that had once made her quit began to melt away. Psychologists call this the compound effect, small, consistent actions that build up into massive change over time. But Anna didn't need the science. She could feel it. Her confidence was returning not because she was perfect, but because she was consistent. That's what English and love had in common. Both reward the ones who keep showing up. One rainy afternoon, while waiting for the bus, Anna recorded herself speaking English for the first time in months. Her voice shook, but she didn't delete it. She listened and smiled. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress, real living progress. And she knew that even on the days she didn't feel motivated, these small habits were quietly rewiring her brain. One sentence at a time. When she got home, Eric greeted her at the door with a simple line. "You sound better today." Anna smiled. "Maybe. I'm learning again." He nodded. "We both are." And in that small exchange, she realized something powerful. Sometimes big transformations don't come from grand gestures. They come from everyday choices. From making the coffee, saying the words, touching the hand, practicing again. Because the truth is, you don't rebuild your life overnight. You rebuild it one small, beautiful moment at a time. When his hands remembered, it was late winter when it happened, the kind of cold that makes Copenhagen feel like it's wrapped in glass. The heater hummed softly. Eric sat at the table working, while Anna folded laundry in silence. The radio murmured a slow jazz tune in the background. Nothing extraordinary, just another ordinary evening. Until he reached out, she didn't even notice at first. His hand brushed against hers, absent-mindedly, gently, but with a kind of familiarity that made her pause. It wasn't a deliberate gesture, not some grand romantic move. It was instinct, something his body remembered before his mind did. Her breath caught. For months they had been rebuilding their connection through words, small habits, shared laughter. But this was different. His hand lingered, thumb tracing the faint line of her palm, as if recalling a language older than words. She looked up at him. He didn't say anything, but his eyes said everything. That he remembered. That somewhere, beneath the weight of years and distance, his hand still knew the shape of her comfort. She smiled softly and placed her hand over his. Not out of politeness but out of knowing. The kind that doesn't need translation. The kind that comes back when you've almost forgotten how to feel it. It was strange, she thought. For weeks, she had focused on rediscovering forgotten words, English phrases, pronunciation, grammar. Yet in this small, unspoken moment, she realized that love had its own forgotten language too. A touch, a look, sigh, all of them waiting quietly, like books left unread, until you're ready to open them again. Eric whispered, "You're quiet." Anna smiled. "I'm listening. To what?" She hesitated, then said, "To everything I forgot." And in that moment she wasn't just remembering English. She was remembering herself, the version of her who used to believe in softness, in effort, in the beauty of beginning again. His hands remembered the warmth. Her heart remembered the reason. And between them, in the small space where silence met touch, something long lost began to speak again. Because sometimes healing doesn't happen through talking. Sometimes it happens when you finally let your hands and your heart remember.